Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today we're going to get right into it because we're talking about something big today. A brand new Unearthed Arcana just came out a couple days ago when you're seeing this video. It is about a brand new class. For most of 5th edition's history, we have had the 12 classes in the player's handbook, and then a little bit later on in the 5th edition history, we got the Artificer added into the Eberron books and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. But for the most part, the classes of D&D have been set and fixed, and 5th edition has had the same 12 or 13 classes since the beginning. The Psion is a new class entirely. I actually have the Unearthed Arcana printed off right here. I'm going to be going through it real quick here with you. We're not going to be getting too into the weeds. I'm going to be going over the basics of the class, some of the new details, all 4 of the new subclasses, and then we'll wrap up with a little bit of loose ends. We've got some spells and some feats at the end of the UA that I'll cover briefly. So, before we get into it though, I would like to let you know, Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube and get a couple benefits. First, you get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know you're a supporter. Also, you get early access to my videos. I upload videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I upload them a day early for members only. And finally, you get VIP access in my community Discord. Anyone can join Relaxed Fantasy Review's Discord server. There's links in the video and channel description. But if you're a channel member, you get VIP access. You get to come straight into the VIP room, talk directly to me. You can talk about your character builds, your campaign ideas, the YouTube channel, whatever you like. If any of that interests you, you can click the join button just down there next to the subscribe button. And if it doesn't interest you, that's fine too. Just being here at all, watching the video, liking and subscribing to the channel, these are all great ways to support me. So thank you for watching my content here on YouTube. All right, you're going to see me looking down here since normally I put my script under the camera. It's like right there, and so you'll see me like glance down. But this time I've got it here next to me because it's like 13 pages and there's not room to stack it all up. So, the Psion. This is a psionic or psychic powered character. Think the Jedi from Star Wars, or any character that uses telekinesis, maybe Professor X or the Phoenix, Jean Grey from X-Men. These are people who use their mental prowess in a way that is similar to magic, but different. The Psion is actually an intelligence-based class. Most of their features are based on their intelligence, so apart from the Wizard and the Artificer, this is the 3rd class we've seen that is intelligence-based at its core, and that's pretty cool. Only having 2 for the longest time has been rough on those of us who love the intelligence stat. They do have a D6 hit die, meaning that they are right there next to the Sorcerer and Wizard as the squishiest characters in Dungeons & Dragons. This is, of course, you know, a place that is unfortunate to land, but perhaps it was appropriate. Maybe putting them in the D8 category was just too tough, considering their other features. So I'm not really going to complain about that any more than I would any other, wizard or sorcerer. They get proficiency in intelligence and wisdom saves. Nice to have those wisdom saves up front. Those are solid. Intelligence saves are super rare, so, but it makes sense considering what the class is. They can choose 2 skills from a list of 7 proficiencies, and you've got all the mental stuff here. Arcana and investigation, perception, persuasion, insight, all the stuff that's based in the 3 mental stats. Stuff that really does make sense. And you've got a nice smattering of intelligence, wisdom, and charisma-based skills, so you get to pick some of your favorites from all of those. Now, you don't get any armor proficiencies, and you only get proficiencies in simple weapons. Once again, we are looking at the Sorcerer and the Wizard's kit. Not a whole lot in regards to defense or offense when it comes to weapon use. But the thing that sells them, first of all, is that they are a full spellcaster. They start off right at level 1 with cantrips and prepared spells, and 2 first level spell slots, and then every other level they get a new level of spell all the way up to level 17 when they get their 9th level spells. So they have the same spell progression as the full casters. So this would be the 7th full caster in D&D, if it makes it past the UA. I probably should have said that up front. This is Unearthed Arcana. What that means is that this is playtest material. This stuff is subject to change. And if this does make it into a full publication, a full book from Wizards of the Coast, it may be different. But as it is presented to us now, it is a full caster. And honestly, I'm not complaining about that. I think that a full intelligence caster that does have spells prepared that they only can change on a long rest, once again emulating the sorcerer. Or sorry, not on a long rest, on a level up. So once you choose your spells, you have those spells and only those spells until you level up, and then you can switch them out a little bit. But you got to know what you're doing. You got to make sure that you are preparing spells as appropriate. You only start with 2 cantrips, which is like, Bard and Druid levels of cantrips, so you got to be careful with that. Eventually scaling up to 4. You start with 4 leveled spells that you prepare, and then that goes up, 1 or 2 per level until you get to the higher levels of play, and you end the game with 22. So, you do have a limited selection, but enough that you can get by. In addition to all of this, you have a special power, psionic spellcasting. You do not need to use verbal components to cast any spell, no matter what it is. Cantrip, leveled spell, as long as it is a spell on the Psion spell list, as long as it is on your class spell list, you don't need to use verbal components at all. It is silent casting for you. You also don't need material components unless they have a cost or are consumed by the spell. So if it's just a spellcasting focus or a component pouch and it wouldn't be consumed or anything, then you don't need that either. The only thing you need is somatic components, which is waving your hands and drawing arcane sigils in the air. Think Doctor Strange sort of thing. So it is very easy to cast silently and cast quietly and cast subtly. It's not quite subtle spell because people will still see you making magical gestures, but a lot of DMs will let you sleight of hand that and do it quietly or like under a cloak or maybe behind your back. Depends on the DM. I let characters who want to cast a somatic only spell, I let them sleight of hand it, see if they can do it hidden. But in general, this is just almost permanent subtle spell, and it's incredibly strong. I am incredibly pleased with the flavor here. Now, another thing you get at level 1 is subtle telekinesis. This is the mage hand cantrip, so that's a 3rd cantrip you get, I suppose, but rather than just the 2 you selected. And you can cast it without somatic components. So this is completely silent, completely hands-free casting of mage hand, and it is invisible when you cast it, or you can make it invisible. So that is just straight up 30-foot, 10-pound telekinesis that you have, which is pretty awesome. It means you can never be tied up because you can just summon your mage hand no matter what and untie yourself. So that's pretty awesome. Finally, the thing you get at level 1 is psionic power. This is a pool of psionic energy dice, very similar to the Soul Knife Rogue and the Psi Warrior Fighter. They get psionic energy dice. They are equivalent to twice your proficiency bonus you have. You get them all back on a long rest, and you get 1 back on a short rest. So you start off with 4, you end the game with 12. They begin as a D6 and scale throughout the game up to a D12, very similar to the Monk's martial arts dice. But these are dice that are a pool of points. You spend the points to do things, and most of the class and subclass features are based around these dice, are based around this pool of psychic power. The very first thing you do with them is you get to do like a push or pull effect, the telekinetic propel. You can do this on enemies to push them and you roll the die to see how far you can push or pull them. You can do this with your allies as well to just give them a boost. And then you also have a telepathic connection, permanent telepathy within 5 feet of yourself, and then you can expand it using your psychic powers to further the distance for a short period of time. So all good stuff here. Like I'm liking all of this. Obviously, you're going to be leaning into your spellcasting pretty heavily because you are a primary caster, but those psychic powers give you some creative things to do. Then at level 2, you get psionic disciplines. You could think of these like sorcerer metamagics or maybe like warlock invocations. They're passive benefits that are powered by your psionic energy dice. I'll go over those in a moment, but you get 2 of them straight up, and then you get a few more as the game goes on. I think another 2 at level 10 and another 2 at level 17. So by the end of the game, you'll have 6, but you start with 2. That's why it resembles sorcerer metamagic. You only get a couple options, and your psionic energy dice power them. In addition, you also get psionic modes. This says you can go into attack mode or defense mode, and this also resembles the sorcerer's innate sorcery power. You activate it as a bonus action. It lasts for a minute. If you're in attack mode, your attacks that do psychic damage ignore resistance, and you can use your psionic energy die to re-roll damage dice, which is pretty nice. Or defense mode, which I think is a little bit better because you get resistance to psychic damage, and you can use your psionic energy dice to re-roll failed mental saves. Or sorry, not re-roll them, add the psionic energy die to the save. So you're adding a d6 to like a failed wisdom save or a failed charisma save or a failed intelligence save, which is pretty good. And you can do this twice a day. So, you want to save it for when you're in combat. The psionic disciplines that you can choose from, I mentioned those. There's several of them, and they all follow a trend. They either power you up in a combat sense, giving you temporary hit points, giving a creature a debuff against a saving throw of yours, or re-rolling or adding damage to things, depending on what spells you're casting. For example, the power Id Insinuation, when you cast an enchantment or illusion spell that forces a save, you can spend 2 of your energy dice, roll 1 of them, and then subtract that from the enemy's saving throw, so you can debuff a save. It's expensive, but if you really need to lock an enemy down with a powerful enchantment spell, it could be worth it. The other stuff you get is stuff that is related to skill checks. When you do a search action, an influence, or a study action, or anything like that, you can roll the dice and spend a psionic energy die and add it to the ability check. You can even, using, this one's my favorite, psionic guards, you can expend a die at the start of your turn, no action required, and until the start of your next turn, you're immune to the charmed and frightened effects. Any charmed or frightened effects that are on you are immediately removed, and you have advantage on your intelligence saving throws. This is a really, really nice defensive feature that only costs 1 psionic energy die to use. Okay, moving along. Level 3, you get your subclass. That's nothing weird. Level 4, you have your ability score improvements or feats, and you get the standard 5 that everyone gets if you include the epic boon. Level 5, you get Psionic Restoration. When you take a short rest, once per day, you can get half your energy dice back, rounded down, instead of just the 1 you normally get from a short rest. At this level, at level 5, that's 2 instead of 1, but next level it's 3 instead of 1. This just gives you a few more energy dice to use throughout the day. It's a solid feature. At level 7, you get Psionic Surge. What this does is it allows you to regain a psionic mode use, so attack or defense mode, when you roll initiative, so you'll never be without one. And if you roll psionic energy dice, interestingly, you can expend a hit die, so the hit point dice that you would normally use during a short rest to heal yourself, you can burn one of those, and any roll on a psionic energy die that's below a 4, so a 1, 2, or 3, you can make a 4. This is actually nice for those saving throw debuffs, or if you really need to pass an important skill check, and the psionic energy dice just brings up a 1. you can use a hit die and make it a 4, and that's a much better buff or debuff. I'm not sure I would use this all the time. Obviously, you're not going to roll that low, and it's not always worth your hit dice because that's healing. I would say it would definitely be worth it if you were using the one that gave you temporary hit points, because that's just health on top of your health, so that's actually a really good use for it. But, it depends what discipline you're using. Your epic boon comes at level 19, like everyone else, and then at level 20, you get a special power, Enkindled Life Force. And what this says is that when you use a psionic energy die for a feature or a discipline, you can expend 2 of your hit dice and add 2 more psionic energy dice to the roll. So what this basically means is if a roll tells you, roll your psionic energy die to D12, you can use 2 hit dice and roll 2 more D12, potentially adding a significant buff to whatever you're doing. Now, obviously, you can only do this a few times before your hit dice run out, I guess 10 in the day. And you do want to keep some of those for short rests and healing and whatnot, but maybe you're a party that doesn't get short rests. And if that's the case, you're not really using your hit dice for much. So it's a nice way to use that resource. It's weird because no other class does this sort of thing. So it's tricky whether or not this is going to stick through the UA. It's interesting, to be sure. And I do like the theme here of sacrificing the body to empower the mind. But I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see how it goes. As far as the rest of the UA, it covers their spell lists, and it is largely utility stuff, battlefield control. Cantrip-wise, the strongest attack you get is a brand new one, Telekinetic Fling, which basically takes like a piece of ammo, like an arrow or a bullet, and just flings it at someone at high speed, does a d10 of force damage. True Strike and Mind Sliver are also here, and then you've got classics like Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, Prestidigitation, Blade Ward also on here, so good stuff. Then as you keep going, you find Command, Dissonant Whispers, Mage Armor, Sleep, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Charm Person. Level 2, you've got Enhanceability, Enlarge Reduce, Heat Metal, Hold Person, Invisibility, Knock, Mind Spike, Shatter, Silence, Suggestion, and a new version of Tasha's Mind Whip, which was a really popular spell for a long time there. It is in the UA, and we'll go over it here in a bit. And it keeps going on like this. Like, there's no Fireball, but there's Hypnotic Pattern. There's no Counter Spell, but there's Fear and Fly. There's a new spell called Telekinetic Crush, and a reprint of Intellect Fortress as well. Ralotham's Psychic Lance is here. Polymorph is here. Dimension Door. Animate Objects, Dominate Person, Synaptic Static. It's all very cerebral, psychic-themed stuff. At the highest levels, you do have a new version, a reprinted version of Psychic Scream, as well as Shape Change, Time Stop, Foresight, but things like Wish and True Polymorph aren't here. So yeah, it's a good spell list if you like battlefield control. I would consider it an advanced spell list. It's not as simple as just, I cast Fireball, I blow things up. It's a little more nuanced than that. So if you aren't familiar with battlefield control and advanced spellcasting, the Scion might be a little bit out of your depth. But then again, you're starting at level 1 with your first level spells, and you learn as you go. So it actually might be an interesting way to learn these kind of spells without being distracted by the fireballs of the world. Anyway, in the UA, we also have 4 subclasses that have been printed. I've gone over these, and again, I'm going to go over them here briefly. The Metamorph is when you turn your psychic power into manipulating your body. You get expanded spell lists from all of them, so they're all automatically prepared. This one actually gives you healing, cure wounds, lesser restoration, mass cure wounds, aura vitality. You also have haste, polymorph, alter self. So a decent spell list there. And then your big thing is that when you attack with the attack action, you can turn your body into weapons. You can make blades appear out of your bones. maul appear out of your hands like a big hammer, or even launch Viscera, which does acid damage. You can replace the damage from any of these with psychic damage, which isn't bad. And then you also get a power called Extend Limbs. This lets you increase your reach, your speed by 5 feet each for 1 minute using a psionic energy die. And you can extend your touch spells out to a 10-foot range, which isn't bad for a spell like Inflict Wounds. Level 6, you get extra attack, and it is the Spellcaster Gish extra attack, where you can replace an attack with a cantrip. So throw True Strike on there, or, Telekinetic Fling, if you've got that. You also get Quickened Healing. You can use your Psionic Energy Dice to cast Cure Wounds as a bonus action, and add the energy dice to the amount healed. Not terrible, but it's a pretty steep cost. It's 2 Psionic Energy Dice for 1 casting of Cure Wounds. So, this is definitely a combat trick. Later on, you get Mutable Form. This says that when you extend your limbs, you also get a special benefits. You can get advantage on your con saves and a damage resistance, or you can get a speedy power that lets you dash as a bonus action and gives you a swimming and climbing speed. Or you can make your body pliable, squeezing through 1-inch spaces, getting a +2 to AC, and escaping from grapples. And then finally, at the level 14, you get Life-Bending Weapon. When you use one of your organic weapons, you can use Psionic Energy Dice to heal creatures around you and do extra damage to one as well. So this one is definitely the combat trick one. Some healing, extra attack, extra reach, extra speed, advantage on con saves and concentration checks. This is all stuff that is good. It takes your D6 hit die caster and turns them a little more gishy. I don't know if they're as good as a Blade Singer or the classic Legacy Hexblade, but they're definitely good, and I'm quite a fan. The next one is the Psi Warper. This is the Space Manipulator. They get things like Featherfall, Misty Step, Haste, Dimension Door, Banishment. They even get Steel Wind Strike, which is kind of cool. You can cast Misty Step once for free a day, and you can use your Psionic Energy Dice to do it again. And when you use Telekinetic Propel, that's the push that you get at level 1, you can teleport the creature if it fails its save instead of pushing it, which is actually really nice. It's like a targeted Misty Step. And because you can do this on your allies, you can also teleport them using your Psionic Energy Dice as well, or try to force teleport an enemy, which is really nice. Then there's Warp Space at level 6. This modifies the Shatter spell. It's very specifically the Shatter spell. It expands it from a small 10-foot radius to a 20-foot one, making it fireball-sized, and creatures that fail their save get sucked to the center, so it's a lot like a gravity sinkhole sort of spell. And interestingly, after you cast Misty Step, you can cast one of your cantrips that have a casting time of a bonus action as part of the same action, interestingly. So this means if you Misty Step with a bonus action, you can cast a cantrip for free, and then you still have your action to cast another one. So you can double up on your cantrips if you teleport. Not bad, actually. That's a really powerful feature, and considering you can use Psionic Energy Dice to teleport, I could see this being a bit of a damage-based build as well, as long as you're using your cantrips to do damage. Then at level 10, you get Duplicitous Target. When a creature targets you with an attack, you can have a willing creature, so your tank preferably, teleport and swap places with you as a reaction, and they take the hit for you. This is really nice for barbarians, paladins, creatures that, and it says specifically that they become the target of the attack. So if you've got a really low armor class and a creature barely hits you, you could teleport with someone who has a higher AC, maybe a medium armor wearing bard or warlock or something, and then they might just not get hit at all, reducing the hit to nothing. So that's a really nice feature, really good defensive feature. Finally, Mass Teleportation takes an action and 4 Psionic Energy Dice, so a bunch of them, and you can teleport up to your intelligence modifier of creatures, which is probably 5 by this point. They have to be within 30 feet of you, but you can teleport them up to 150 feet. The classic use for this would be to just have a bunch of enemies fail their saving throw against it and teleport them in the air, so they fall 150 feet. Classic. Or you can get your entire party out of a bad situation or into a bad situation if you're so inclined. 150 feet is a long teleport. So very, very cool. Lots of teleporting shenanigans here. I love it. Next subclass, the Psikinetic. This is all about psionic force. You got stuff like Shield, one of the only ways to get Shield as the as this Psion class, because it's not on your normal spell list. But you've also got Thunderwave, Slow, Telekinetic Crush, which I'll go over later, Telekinesis, and Wall of Force, which is awesome. And then it empowers a couple things. Your Telekinetic Propel, that's the push I mentioned at level 1. You can boost a creature's speed with it, so that's when you push an ally. You also can boost their speed. And then you can do it against enemies, reducing their opportunity attacks, or doing force damage with the psionic energy as well. So adding a little bit of damage to your force push. Then there's Empowered Attack Mode at level 6. When you enter that psionic state, the attack state that you get from your class, you gain a flying speed of 60 feet, with hover, I might add. And when you cast a Psion spell, you can add your intelligence modifier to the damage rolls of one of the damage rolls. So that buffs up your spell casting. Not bad. The flying speed is really peak. Also at level 6, when you cast Shield in response to being hit with an attack, and it causes the attack to miss, you can deflect the force back at the creature. They make a dex save or they take damage. That's pretty awesome. And then you get some temporary hit points as well. This is a solid feature and a solid buff to the Shield spell, which was already a really good spell anyway, so this is just a little overkill, but I like it. I'm a fan of the theme of putting up a shield and bouncing an attack back. Level 10, you get an expansion to the Telekinetic Crush spell. Like I said, I'll go over that later. But basically, it makes it so even creatures that succeed their save against the Crush have a debuff, so that's pretty good. And then Heightened Telekinesis. When you cast Telekinesis, you can modify it so it doesn't take concentration. And you can even target gargantuan creatures and objects with it, so turning you into the ultimate telekinetic powerhouse. Pretty powerful stuff here. I like this one. I think this one might be my second favorite. The Psi Warper, the teleporter, is definitely my favorite, but this one probably is my second. Finally, you get the Telepath, the final subclass. This one is all about telepathy and talking to the mind. Your expanded spell list has got some okay stuff. Bane, Command, Detect Thoughts, Counterspell is on this one, which is nice. Compulsion, Confusion, Modify Memory, a lot of utility spells there. Also, when you cast Detect Thoughts, you can use 2 of your psionic energy dice to modify it. So 1, it doesn't take components. 2, it doesn't take concentration. And 3, when you try to probe deep into their mind, they get to make the saving throw. If they succeed the save, they don't know you're doing it. Because normally the spell would inform them that you're doing it. Not this one. This lets you read minds basically with impunity. And that's actually really strong. Like, a lot of folks think of Detect Thoughts as a utility spell. I actually like using it in combat. It helps you detect where creatures are, maybe even predict their attacks or their strategies. There's a lot you can do with it, and if they don't know you're doing it, so much the better. Finally, at level 3, Telepathic Hub, it expands your telepathy and allows you to do it with more than one creature at a time when you use your psionic energy die to boost it. So that's awesome. You become a hub of telepathy. Then at level 6, Empowered Defense Mode. When you're in defense mode, not only do you get advantage, or do you get to add to your saving throws from the defense mode, but you also get to add a d4 to any save that you make. So that's a really defensive feature. And when your defense mode is active, the benefit is extended to anyone you're telekinetically linked with, or telepathically linked with. So your whole party gets to benefit from your defense mode buff, which is actually really good. Like, that's almost Aura of Protection level good. So very, very defensive focused and team focused here. Finally, at level 6, you can add your intelligence modifier to your Psion cantrips. This is like the only damage buff you get, but, you know, it's a decent buff. Level 10, your telepathy increases even further, and when a creature that is within range of your telepathy fails an ability check or misses with an attack, you can use your reaction and a psionic energy die to add the die to that ability check or attack roll, potentially turning a miss into a hit or a failure into a success. And it's only expended if it works. So you can actually do this relatively well often, even if you still miss. Like if you're just, you know, Hail Marying it, no problem. Then finally, level 14, Scramble Minds. This is another power that improves a spell. This time it's the spell Confusion, which is a pretty rough spell. It's not the strongest. It's a 4th level spell, and it may or may not do anything. But in this case, it empowers it. You spend a bunch of 4 psionic energy die to expand the radius, so it affects way more creatures, and they get disadvantage on their confusion roll. Basically, with confusion, they roll a die to see what they do on their turn. And what this power does is it means they roll 2 dice, and you get to pick the worst one. So you get a lot more control over the confusion spell, which takes it from a pretty bad pick at 4th level spells to a pretty good pick. So that's actually pretty awesome. All in all, these subclasses sell several different types of Psychic Warrior, and I'm quite a fan. We were talking about spells. I'm going to go over them real briefly here. These are the spells that have been printed in the UA. Again, these may change, so don't take too much of this to heart. Some of them are brand new, some of them are reprints. Intellect Fortress, it's is an hour concentration action to cast, gives you resistance to psychic damage and advantage on your mental saves, and you can upcast it to target additional creatures, so that's good. A good spell for defense. Psychic Scream is a 9th level spell that targets creatures. They have to make an intelligence save or take a bucket load of psychic damage, and they're stunned if they fail the save, and they get to repeat the save later on, but they're stunned indefinitely until they make the save. So if they have low intelligence and you've got a high spell save DC, this could stun a creature permanently, as in they'll never snap out of it unless they're healed in some way. So that's nice. It's not the strongest 9th level spell. It's actually pretty mid for a 9th level spell, but it's very thematic. Rowletham's Psychic Lance, 4th level enchantment spell. You target a creature. If you can't see them, you can just say their name, and this Psychic Lance will pursue them. They make an intelligence save and take some psychic damage, and are incapacitated until the start of your next turn if they fail it. So not bad. Really, really nice if you know the names of your enemies. A brand new one that's in here, Summon Astral Entity. Classic summoning spell, action to cast, lasts an hour with concentration. The Psionic Spirit stat block is in here, and you can summon like a ghost spirit, an ectoplasmic spirit, or a crystalline spirit. And they all get different powers. You know, Crystal gets more AC, the ghost can fly, the ectoplasmic creature has a ranged splash attack. The crystal one can reduce damage with a reaction. So, you know, there's some good stuff here. They have telepathy. They're immune to psychic damage. Not bad. Tasha's Mind Whip, I mentioned earlier. It's actually been nerfed a little bit. In the old version, it was, you know, action to cast, lashed out at a creature. They made an intelligence save, took a bit of psychic damage, couldn't make opportunity attacks if they failed, and they could only take an action, bonus action, or move on their next turn. Very, very strong debuff. Now it's been changed, so it's just on their next turn they can take an action or a bonus action. Their movement is unaffected. Unfortunate, but it was a really strong 2nd level spell. So this one does bring it down a peg, more in line with other 2nd level spells. I still like it. Telekinetic Crush, brand new 3rd level spell, action to cast, 30-foot cube, and creatures have to make strength saves. If they fail, they take some force damage and are knocked prone automatically. No size restriction on this one. It's just a strength save. And if they succeed, they take half damage, no prone. Not bad. That's actually really cool. Knocking creatures prone is a solid feature. It's not a lot of damage, 5d6, but it's decent, and it's force damage too. Finally, Telekinetic Fling, brand new cantrip. Like I said, you grab a piece of ammunition like an arrow or a crossbow bolt or a bullet, and you just fling it 60 feet as an attack roll, d10 of force damage, and it destroys the ammunition. So unlike regular archers, you can't go and recover your arrows. It like disintegrates. And then it scales, as cantrips tend to do, doing 2d10, 3d10, and 4d10 later on. So yeah, those are the new spells. A lot of these are available to sorcerers and warlocks and wizards. All of them are available to scions. That Telekinetic Fling is actually scion exclusive. It's like their version of the Bard's Vicious Mockery. So that's kind of cool, an exclusive cantrip. Be kind of nice if a wizard could get it too, but I understand they wanted something unique. Not bad, not bad. Then the final bit in this, and this is a bit expansive, is new feats. These are called Wild Talent feats. And the UA actually specifies these are meant to be origin feats. You can, with a custom background, or specifically with the noble or sage background, take these as origin feats. And then they say in the UA that if these are printed in a book, they'll probably come with some new backgrounds to go with them, which is fine. That's cool. And what they are is effectively interesting versions of, like, Magic Initiate plus other stuff. What you get from most of them is a specific power that either can be used once per turn or a few times per day, that it powers you up a little bit, and then you get some spells. For example, Atmokinesis. This is like a lightning-based origin feat. When you hit with bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, or psychic damage once per turn, you can change it to lightning damage. Cool, I guess. If you run into a creature that's resistant to one of those four, you can modify the spell to lightning. That's kind of nice. And then you get Shocking Grasp, Fog Cloud, and Gust of Wind, which you can cast once per day for free, and then again with your spell slots. Okay, cool. Biokinesis. Proficiency bonus times per day. You can add a d4 to any spell that restores hit points. Not a great feature. That's not very much, but okay, whatever. And then you get Spare the Dying, Healing Word, and Arcane Vigor prepared for you. So that's kind of cool. So very healing based. That extra d4 of hit points, I think that should be buffed a little bit. Then you've got Clairsentience. This allows you proficiency bonus times per day to give yourself advantage on the search action. Not bad. You also know Guidance. Awesome. Detect evil and good, and see invisibility. So you see the theme I'm going with here. Ability that is decent or whatever, and then some spells. Cryokinesis. Same as the lightning one, but it's cold damage. So bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, or psychic, you can change the cold. You know Ray of Frost, Armor of Agathis, and Ice Knife. The Empath one allows you to give yourself advantage on your influence actions, proficiency bonus times per day. And then you know Charm Person and Calm Emotions. No cantrip for this one, which is kind of unfortunate. But advantage on your influence actions, pretty good. Flesh Morpher. When you make a acrobatics or sleight of hand check, you can get a bonus equal to your intelligence modifier a few times per day. You also know Longstrider and Alter Self. It's okay. Not my favorite. Mind Whisperer. As a magic action, you can give yourself a 120-foot telepathic connection between you and a creature for an hour. You can do this once per short or long rest. And then you get Mind Sliver and Dissonant Whispers. Only one leveled spell here, but Mind Sliver is a good cantrip, so I'm okay with that. The Psi Trickster. This allows you to give that same intelligence modifier buff, proficiency bonus times per day, to your deception or persuasion checks, like that. You also know Minor Illusion and Disguise Self. This might be my favorite one so far. Then you've got the Psykineticist. When you take the dash action, you can increase your speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. Proficiency bonus times per day. That's actually really nice on a rogue or someone who can dash as a bonus action, just boosting your speed even further. Love it. You also know Telekinetic Fling, so this is a way for a non-Psion to get it if you have this origin feat. And Thunder Wave. Pretty good. Then finally, Pyrokinesis. As you might have guessed, your bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and psychic damage can do fire once per turn. You also know Produce Flame. Not sure why it's not Fire Bolts, but fine, Produce Flame. Burning Hands and Scorching Ray. Very on brand, and honestly, that's a really fun one if you want to go with a damage origin feat. Like I said, these are similar to Magic Initiate in the sense that you get some cantrips and spells, but they're chosen for you. And then that extra benefit, which can be okay. They boost skill checks, healing, replace damage types, increase speed. Like, you know, there's good stuff here. Some are better than others, for sure. But I like these. I like this idea that you've got this wild quirk. It almost reminds me of like My Hero Academia sort of thing, where everyone is born with a quirk that gives them some magical powers or some super abilities. And there are 10 of them here in this UA. I hope that these make it into publication, because I would love... This is doubling the number of origin feats that we have. And these all follow a theme, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. I like this expansion of options that you get at level 1. So very, very pleased with that. This has been a long video, but yeah, the Psion is the big ticket item here. Really cool new class. Watch this space. I'll go over any changes that are made to it over the UA process. Hopefully it's published in a book soon. I'd love to see a 14th class in D&D. We know the Artificer's on the way. And then some awesome new spells, some new origin feats. Yeah, just really, really cool. This is an awesome Unearthed Arcana. I honestly could see myself letting my players use the Psion and actually play test this. Usually I don't like using playtest material in my actual games. I prefer to see it come from the real books. I might make an exception for this, because this is pretty cool. Big fan, big fan. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for this Unearthed Arcana. Love it. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more reviews from the new Dungeons & Dragons coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.